Hi, I'm Bill Lampton, sometimes called the Complete Communicator because, after all, that is the title of my book. At any rate, today I'm going to give you 7 very valuable tips on how to remember people's names. Have you ever had the horrifying, embarrassing experience of going into some type of setting, whether it's business or social, somebody starts walking toward you, you know their name, you've met them, you've talked with them, but all of a sudden you cannot remember it? And what could even be worse, suppose this is someone that you're trying to do business with. If you remember their name, they think that you're vitally interested in them. And so they're more likely to want to do business with you. But if you forget the name, it can be a real turnoff. I'm going to give you, as I said, 7 super ways to remember people's names. They're simple, and I know they really work. Number 1, be sure you catch the name at first. You see, one of the problems is when we're introduced to people, we're not listening for their name. No, let's admit it. For the most part, we're thinking of the brilliant thing that we're going to say next. So concentrate on it. Make sure you catch the name. Well, Bill, you might say, what if it's a complicated name and they say it to me and I don't understand it? Hey, it's okay to ask again. They want you to do that. They want you to be interested. In fact, ask them to spell the name if that will be helpful. That's not offensive at all. It just shows that you have that vital interest, which they will appreciate. Next, visualize the name. Visualize the name. Sometimes that's fairly easy to do at a function when people are wearing name tags. You really can look at the name and you can get a visual image of it. But when there are no name tags around, visualize it anyway. Imagine that you see that name in print. Next, use the name. Use it in conversation. Soon after you have met them, say, well, you know, Fred, I'm glad to hear about the vacation you had, or Barbara, it's interesting that you've moved to a new neighborhood. Let me hear more about it. That demonstrates that you caught the name to begin with. Another way to remember the name is to associate it. For example, if I meet someone named Ted, immediately I try to picture that person with some other people named Ted that I know. Same thing if I meet someone named Diane. I've known some Dianes before, so I associate there. I warn you, this can be tricky. A person in one of my professional seminars, one of the participants, said that he once knew someone that he had to introduce at a function, and the person's name was Johnny Walker. And my friend gets up and, doing a little bit of association, introduces him as Jim Beam. Well, you can imagine that drew a good chuckle. And so there's some dangers in association, but do try to associate the name with other names and other people that you have known. And then again, review names. Review names. How do you do this? One thing, get the person's business card. If they don't have a business card, the minute they walk away, pull out your pen and write down their name and review it. In fact, before you go to any type of major function where you're going to know some of the people there, get out a list of names of the potential attendees. I do this every time. You see, I spent over 20 years in fundraising. Believe me, people are not going to make major gifts to your organization if you forget their names. So before I would go to any kind of major function, I would pull out the names of key people I knew were going to be there, and I would certainly review those names. Every one of these tips is valuable. Every one of them is useful. They've served me well over a long time, and I know that they will be beneficial to you as well. Incidentally, all of these tips came from a segment in my book, The Complete Communicator. Change your communication, change your life. There's a lot more good advice in here as well. I invite you to visit my website, www.championshipcommunication.com. You can order the book from my website. If you live outside the U.S., you can order through Amazon.com. I'm sure that all of these tips will be very useful to you. Remember that there's no sound sweeter to anyone than the sound of their own name.